I've always loved mountains, having done a lot of hill walking, and I found them to be very spiritual places. I wanted to visit the Himalaya for many, many years, and in 1998 I got the chance to go to Bhutan, a small country on the northeast side of India, sandwiched between Sikkim, Tibet and India. It's a very strong Buddhist tradition there, and anywhere you go, if you raise your eyes, you'll see a building, and the building will be a monastery. And the chances are, between you and the building in the distance, there will be many sets of prayer flags. These are not like the usual prayer flags. These are long, thin, narrow, white prayer flags, and they're fastened by their long side to poles in groups of 6 or 7 or 8, and they shimmer together, and they create a wonderful sense of punctuation in the distance, and they look like waterfalls. Taktsang Lhakhang is a monastery which is perched 2,000 feet up an almost vertical cliff. It's a very special place for the Bhutanese because it's where the Rinpoche who converted the country to Buddhism landed on the back of a flying tiger and went into a cave and meditated for 3 months, presumably also to get over the shock of his journey, before coming out to convert the country to Buddhism. So when I went to see it, I was very excited, but I found that it had just burnt down, so I was disappointed. It's not an uncommon occurrence for monasteries in Bhutan to burn down, because they're mostly built of wood, and butter lamps can be very easily overturned and cause a blaze. They don't seem too worried about it. But I was disappointed. About 5 years later, I got the chance to go back to Bhutan as part of a group which was almost like a cultural delegation, and as such had a concession in the price. But you understand, going to Bhutan is never cheap, which is why the country is almost completely free of young people and backpackers. So I signed up eagerly, and looked forward to going. But there was just one snag. I didn't have the money. And as time went by, as the months went by, and it became nearer and nearer to the time for payment, I still didn't have the money. So I decided to have an exhibition in my house. I put unframed paintings on the walls of my sitting room. I stuck them up with drawing pins because I couldn't afford frames, and I invited my friends round to see them. One of the paintings was a picture of Taktsang Lhakhang, and one of the first people to arrive promptly fell in love with the painting and bought it. She was very kind and said I could keep the painting for a few days so that more of my friends could see it. And the next person who arrived fell in love with the painting and said she'd like to buy it. "Don't worry," I said. "I think I could find another for you," and went up to the studio and did another. And then, the next day, somebody else turned up and fell in love with the painting and decided they wanted to buy it. So I did the same. It was very hard work painting these paintings, but in 3 days I had made more than enough money to cover the whole cost of the trip. Taktsang Lhakhang actually paid for me to go and see it. In this painting, I've used colour to express my gratitude to this monastery and my feelings about it. I've used some very strong diagonals to emphasize the composition and the shapes of the rocks. And I've also used gentle swooping movements, which you can just see in the curve made by the string of prayer flags that runs from the building on the lower left-hand side of the monastery to the left-hand side of the painting, and is carried on throughout the rest of the painting. In the next and last video of the present series, I'll be talking about how people began to come into my paintings as swimmers.